up and doing stuff too. Okay. But to start, I just want to give you a definition of how I think about navigation and some of the components of it. Right? The way I think about it is it's getting you and your group safely and efficiently from point A to point B. That's part one. And part two is knowing where you are along the way. That make sense? How do we get from here to there? And while we're on that journey, we know where we are at each point in time. Okay? If you define it that way and think about it that way, I think there's a couple different dimensions to navigation. What we usually think about is charts and compass together. But then if things that can affect you getting safely from point A to point B are tides and currents, right? So you need to know about that. Wind, weather, and waves, so you need to know about that. I mean, I do this pretty broadly, but you know, I think it's legitimate. You need to know something about rules of the road. And this is actually kind of part of charts, but you need to know something about aids to navigation too, and how they're set up. Can you think of something else that you might consider part of navigation? Ed? Another dimension, another component? Or anybody?
Not right yet.
Make sense to you? This makes sense
Okay.
to you? Okay. All right. So, I want to focus on this and this. Right? Harry's going to talk about this a little bit. What we aren't going to talk about too much is this stuff. All right, but I just want you to be aware that when you think about navigation broadly, you should be thinking about that stuff too, and knowing about that stuff. For example, wind, weather, and waves. If we're going from point A to point B tomorrow, one of the first things we're going to do is check the weather forecast. We want to know what the winds are going to be like. We want to know if there's going to be any waves kicking up on the way there, right? So this is obviously part of navigation. Okay, charts. So one thing about charts that you need to know about is scale, right? What kind of area does it cover? Are you all familiar with scale and charts? Okay. So this is a 1 to 80,000 chart. Right? Covers a fairly big area. The bigger the number, the bigger the area that's covered. So you could have a 1 to 250,000 chart, and this might go up to South Carolina. I don't know. A larger scale chart covers a much smaller area, but gives you more detail. Right? So this goes from here, St. Simon's Sound, all the way down to the St. Mary's River entrance, and it includes St. Andrews Sound, just south of us. Right? 1 to 80,000 chart. This is a 1 to 40,000 chart, and this area right here is just St. Andrews Sound. This bit right there, blown up. Okay? So, what size chart you need depends on what you're doing, right? If you're doing a multi-day trip, right, you might want some, doing the Georgia Barrier Islands, you might want something like this. But if you're doing a day trip around here, then you might want a smaller scale chart, right? Larger scale chart. The less the area that's covered, the greater the detail you have. Right? Okay, good. So, here's contest time, not contest, quiz time. Not quiz, whatever. What I'd like you to do is have, like, maybe you